Welcome to my channel. My name is Kay. For today's video, my first video, we will be discussing the Cleveland torso killer. I chose this killer because they were an Ohio killer, and I live in Ohio, so I guess it was just close to home, and I found the case really interesting. Before we get started, I just want to say that I mean no disrespect to any of the victims or their family, and I hope they all rest in peace. Also, everything in this video might not be completely true. These are just facts or things that I found off the internet, so if you are more familiar with the case and want to add or correct anything in the comments, feel free to. Anyways, let's get into the video. Let's start with the first victim. She was a woman found along the shores of Lake Erie in 1934. Only the woman's lower torso was found, and it was amputated at the knees. There was also a chemical found present on the skin that turned it red and leathery. The rest of her body wasn't found, and the woman went unidentified, though she was nicknamed Lady of the Lake. After she had been found, she was taken to the morgue, and she wasn't even thought about until years later when detectives realized she fit almost perfectly into a local serial killer's pattern. Now, the first victim in Kingsbury Run was found about a year later by two teenage boys. His torso was found at the bottom of a hill. He was identified as 28-year-old Edward Andrassy. He was found in only a pair of socks. He was the first of a long line of bodies found in Kingsbury Run. At first, the killer was called the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run. Then later on, he was renamed as the Cleveland Torso Murderer. Between September 1934 and August 1938, 13 bodies were found. Only 3 victims were identified and only 2 positively. They were all in the same conditions, all missing heads and various limbs. In most of the cases, the cause of death was either decapitation or dismemberment. Some limbs were found near each other, but others took days to find. There were even some body parts that never were found. Now, only 2 of the victims were found deviated from the usual MO. Victim 9 had been eviscerated. The abdomen gutted and the heart was ripped out. Now, victim 10 had drugs in her system, though since they didn't have her arms, they couldn't rule out that she was an addict. As for the 3 identified victims, the first was Edward Andrassy. Then the 3rd victim was identified as Florence Polillo. I apologize if I am saying these names wrong. The 8th victim was believed to be Rose Wallace, but her identity was only confirmed through unsupported dental records. The investigation into the killings went on for 5 years officially. This resulted in only 2 major arrests and no convictions, which we will get onto in a moment. Safety Director Elliot Ness became heavily involved in 1936, since he was well known for heading up the Untouchables, a group of federal law enforcement agents that worked to take down Al Capone. It was thought that his talent as a detective would bring this case to a fast closure. Well, in 1938, the last 2 bodies were discovered in a dump site that were visible from Elliot Ness's office window. 2 days after, Ness and a group of 35 police officers raided Kingsbury Run, the home to the city's most degenerate residents. They got together 63 men and then burned down the town. Ness was heavily criticized, and the public didn't think it would stop the murders, although no bodies were found after it. Though I'm not saying that what he did was right, it did stop the killings. As for suspects, a few days after the raid, a doctor named Francis Sweeney was arrested. He was a medical soldier in World War I and had been responsible for field amputations. Ness gave him 2 separate polygraph tests, which he'd failed both. Though before he could be tried, it was revealed that Sweeney was first cousins to Ness's political opponent, Congressman Martin Sweeney. Ness realized that he could not successfully prosecute him and was forced to let Sweeney go. Now, the second arrest happened in 1939. This arrest was a bit sketchy for a few reasons. Sheriff O'Donnell had discovered that a man named Frank Dolezal had lived with Florence Polillo for a while and had been acquainted with Edward Andrassy and Rose Wallace, the only identified victims. It was said that Frank confessed, though there were rumors that he was forced. Frank hung himself in his cell before he could be taken to trial, and his autopsy showed that he had sustained 6 broken ribs while in O'Donnell's custody. Later, it was revealed that O'Donnell was the only one who believed Frank to be guilty. After the authorities ran out of suspects and no one found any more bodies, the case went cold. Since 1939, no new info has been found on the Cleveland torso killer. I found this case pretty interesting, and if you have anything you would like to discuss about the case, or even if you found it interesting as well, please let me know in the comments. If you enjoy this content and would like to see more from me, please subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss new content from me. Let me know what cases I should cover next. Hope you enjoyed the video.